Yeah, Cork in the 80s is a place now I think of in black and white. When I think of the 80s, I think of quite a grey city at the time. It was a city under wraps, really. It was a city going through hard times. You had the closure of Ford's, the closure of Dunlop's. It was before Apple really came in.
So there were long unemployment lines. There was a sense of depression about the place. People were poor. Everybody wore wet duffel coats, as I recall. It was a depressed kind of a place.
Cork was an extremely conservative place at the time in the early 80s. It was a very monocultural place, very white, very Catholic.
So, for example, at that time it was reasonably difficult to get hold of contraceptives, for example, which probably younger viewers would find very surprising now. And so there was one family planning clinic in Cork, and if you got to get an appointment there, then you would be able to get contraceptives. Otherwise, you had to go to your GP and hope for the best.
The situation for gay men at the time and lesbians at the time in Ireland was pretty awful, really.
You know, it's worth stating that it was against the law to be a gay man at the time. It was criminalised, which was extraordinary.
For example, when I was young, when I was a teenager into my late teens, there were no lesbian icons or role models, or we'd never heard of lesbians actually, and I'd never heard of lesbian or gay people, other than various stereotype people who were denigrated. You know, the sense, there was a sense of these people are depraved.
Everything was kind of controlled. You know, the Catholic Church was in control. When Corpus Christi took place in Cork, the whole city shut down. The city council marched in their robes behind all the bishops and the monks and the priests. The army marched with them. The Gardaí marched with them. The large business people marched with them. And we all watched them do that. And it was like a real statement of, we are all together, church and state and business, we are together, and we're controlling everything. You don't have to do anything, just be good boys and girls and everything will be fine. And it was a way like that.
It was good and bad. Actually, by the time of the early 80s, significant changes were already underway in Ireland, partly thanks to joining the European Union, but mainly because of activist groups in Ireland. So there were a lot of kind of activist groups working in different areas, but they weren't really coming together. And that's one of the things that the Quay Co-op could do, was to bring people together from across different areas.
Sometimes when I'm talking to younger people now, I think we felt, and when I say we now, I mean a lot of people, I think we felt much more empowered despite how badly the country was doing. It was kind of like, you kind of felt like you could make a difference. Now, you know, how much difference you could actually make was another matter. It was like the governance of the country was easier to imagine and to engage with. It wasn't this monolith, you know. You could actually kind of have a go.
Cork was parochial and a bit stolid, but a significant marker in my memory of Cork was the return to Cork of Arthur Leahy and his then partner, Laurie, and they came back to Cork to do something.
I suppose it was an idea that was kind of with both Laurie, my partner at the time, and myself. I lived in London for 25 years before coming back to Cork. Both of us had been involved with the emerging community centres in London. Centerprise was the one we were mostly involved with. which was a bit like what the co-op eventually became to be, was a kind of a centre with as a focal point